Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by captain of the Bentley hockey team, Ethan Roswell. Ethan, thank you so much for coming on today, and how's everything going?
Thanks for having me, Matt. Really appreciate it. Things are going well. I'm actually in COVID protocol right now, so I'm almost out, but getting through it and looking forward to finishing the season here.
So are you feeling good? Do you have any symptoms? Because it feels like a lot of people that are in the protocols don't feel anything at all, and they just have to pretty much just wait until the quarantine time's up.
Yeah, that's you hit the head right there. Yeah, I actually have no symptoms. Been in here for quite a bit, so really looking forward to get out and rejoining society.
Yeah,
Plan on.
no, yeah, no, that definitely is. How do you try to keep yourself busy during quarantine? Because I feel like that's difficult, because usually when you're sick, you're kind of sleeping most of the time, so you have time. That's kind of how you pass the time. But I feel like if you're feel fine, it's kind of hard to find stuff to do.
Yeah, I'm watching Yellowstone right now, so a lot of TV shows. So I'm into that. Couple other shows here and there, but mostly just Yellowstone and a little bit of Xbox and NHL. So
Yeah.
staying busy.
Now, was the quarantine period 5 days or 10 days? Because I know the winter athletic committee for the NCAA changed the rules. I was just curious if how it went for you since you had no symptoms.
Yeah, so we're right now. Our school has been implementing the 10-day, which honestly I think is a little absurd, given that the CDC says 5. I have no symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Been kind of a little bit of erratic handling this whole thing, but I mean the whole country's going through it, so I mean can't blame just them. But yeah, I'm just excited to get out of here.
Yeah, no, I can definitely feel that. And it feels for at least for this season, I was kind of thinking that was going to be a lot different than last year. But it feels like as the weeks are going on, it's starting to become more like last year than I thought it was going to be like.
For sure, yeah, it really is. But hopefully we can all move past it pretty soon.
Now, your team played Merrimack on Saturday. I just want to ask if you had the chance to watch them play that game, and I guess what was it? What was your perspective on the game, even though it didn't go your team's way?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was in quarantine, so I did watch it with uh, Brandon Walcom, the other kid that I'm quarantined with. And obviously it didn't go our way, but I mean, it's kind of like the mentality, like next man up. And, they had some guys out too. So, I mean, there's really no excuses. And I think everybody in college hockey has been kind of portraying that mentality, like next man up. And it's one game, and I think we'll move past it. I know we'll move past it. So I don't really have any worries with that. But since it was announced 2 days before, which was obviously a little bit of a surprise as we were playing Lowell, everyone's ready. You got to practice like you can't play tomorrow, which obviously in my case was reality at that point around 10 days ago. So, I mean, you just got to take everything with a grain of salt and give it 110% whenever you can. So.
Yeah, and that must be tough to prepare for a team when you don't even know you're going to play them until 2 days before. So is it more just focusing on your systems when that kind of stuff happens? Even though, because I feel like in Hockey East, they're probably more used to it because that's what the schedule was like last year. But for Atlantic Hockey, you kind of had sort of a set schedule before the season started last year.
For sure, yeah, that's a good point about systems. I mean, I think the other biggest thing is just keeping up with your conditioning. Make sure everyone's conditioned, everyone's ready to play at the drop of a puck. Because like you said, it was 2 days before, and some guys were getting out of quarantine, some guys were going in. So I mean, conditioning and systems, and everyone's on the same page for the most part. So.
Now, I know you didn't play the game against Merrimack, but what's it been like to play non-conference games this year? And is that something you missed since you didn't get to do it last year at all?
Yeah, that's something you miss a lot. I mean, Atlantic hockey is great playing against those teams, but you really get up a little bit for the bigger or the out of conference games, because most people know like teams like we played Boston College and Ohio State, and those are big names. So you get up for those games, and it's really exciting to kind of, I guess, use yourself. It's kind of like a comparison to see, I guess, more skilled players, but I mean the parity in the league is astounding. Like we beat BC, we beat Ohio State. Like we can beat big names, and that puts a little bit of a chip on our shoulder that we can compete with anybody. So I think at a conference are great for everyone. And I think I hope we can get one more in.
Yeah, no, and I feel like that's what makes college hockey the best college collegiate sport, just because in college football, let's be honest, some schools are just never going to beat Alabama. But in
Yeah.
college hockey, I was watching the Northeastern LIU game, and Northeastern's a top 15 ranked team in the country, and LIU gave them a pretty good game. They lost 1-0. And I think that just shows you just kind of the parity in college hockey that no matter what team you play, they can definitely give you a game.
Yep. Any given night. That's how it is.
Now, talk about what it was like beating Ohio State and Boston College, and just how important were those wins for your team heading into the first half of the season?
Yeah, they were massive. The wins they were great. One, it kind of solidified us on the college hockey map as a contender. Obviously, our goal is to win the championship, and I think beating those two big teams definitely, helped us in the right direction for that. And in terms of recognition throughout the league, I think we got like 25 votes after that. We've been in clear eyesight, for the top of our league, which has been great. So definitely beating those teams were great, especially at home. Can't emphasize that enough. That was the first time. So when we beat Ohio State, that was the first time we were allowed to have fans back in our building. So it's basically our home opener. Me personally, I had like friends and family coming out, and it was really great. It was a really special game, and not just because we won, but being able to get the Bentley community out together was really special. And to top it off with a win was just the cherry on top. So
Yeah,
that
and
was
doing
awesome.
research for this interview, I was just watching some of the highlights in the game against BC. The crowd was just absolutely buzzing. That was insane. Just watching it from a screen, what was it like playing in that? Just because that must have been super cool to do that again, since you didn't get to do that last year. And I'm assuming for the freshmen and sophomores on your team, that must have been super cool for them as well, since they've never really had to play in that crowd before.
For sure. Yeah. The BC one was really special too. Yeah. The crowd was just unbelievable. Like I said, bringing the Bentley community together. Sorry. And just being able to, I don't want to say stomp on them, but we played really well, and it was just a very surreal environment, and it was college hockey. Fans were great, and everybody was on the same page, and it was just awesome. And one of my good buddies is the captain of is Mark McLaughlin, and just get to stick it to him 2 out of my 4 years. We beat him my freshman year too, so kind of
Yeah.
got the reins on him for that one. But
That's awesome. And obviously, when some of those goals were scored, like I feel like for one of the goals, it felt like the glass was going to fall on you guys in the huddle. That's just how like crazy it felt like. But I feel like your team must have loved it.
yeah, it was great. The boys loved it, and like I said earlier, it was a great kickstart to the season. So got some momentum rolling into the first half, obviously. So
Now, talk about what it's like playing Atlantic hockey, just because it's a good conference, but I feel like nationally it doesn't get enough recognition as it should. Just because I'm kind of hoping that the day will come where a team from Atlantic hockey will get an at-large bid to the tournament. I feel like that's going to happen at some point in the next few years.
absolutely, that's a great question. I mean, I think like I was alluding to earlier, we've taken down big teams, but it hasn't just been us. It's been Mercyhurst, it's been Niagara. They just beat Notre Dame. It's been AIC. Look at AIC the past 3 years. Taking down St. Cloud, and it's we know, like, players know. But I think the game is evolving, and I think that the more big name teams that Atlantic beats, the better it's going to be. And I think what you were referring to earlier, scheduling non-conference games is the best way to kind of portray and get ourselves recognized, because we do deserve it. Um, yeah, I think we're on the right path, and I think it will happen in the near future.
Yeah, no, I feel like it could happen this year just with some of the teams, just the way they're playing. And for your team has massively improved record-wise compared to last season. Just talk about the improvements that your team has made. And I guess what did your team do during the off season to make the improvements you made from last year to this year?
For sure, yeah. I think one of the biggest things is so Bentley just partnered with Athletic Evolution, which is like a training facility up in Woburn here, so close to our facilities. And we got a new training staff, like new strength coach. So I was able to work with him this summer. I stayed out here in the summer, and with a couple buddies on the team, and we were able to work with him one-on-one and work with their staff, which was great. There's been a ton of changes, minor changes more so just around the facility, and it's really professional now. And I think, you can ask any of the alumni that even like 3 or 4 years ago that have been through here, and they tip their cap to our new athletic director, Vaughn Williams. He's been phenomenal, transformed every single team here at Bentley, not just the hockey team program. But I think the training staff mixed with a couple other small things that you don't always realize really go a long way. So.
Yeah, no, I remember going to a Bentley game back when I was like 14 years old, and they played at this rink in Waltham, I believe. It was like a small, yeah, it was like kind of crazy. And just I've never been to the new rink, but just looking at just how much like money went into that, just it shows you how just those little, if you put a little money into something and just like how it's going to improve the program for years to come. And I feel like you're already seeing that now.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't express how fortunate enough we are as a program to be able to play in that arena. This was my freshman year, was the first year that was the first technically inaugurated class to play in the arena for the first full year. So our class takes it. We're very fortunate. Let's put it that way.
Now, you're also the captain of the team as well. So my question is, what was it like being named captain? And I guess what type of leadership do you try to bring to the team? Are you a vocal leader, or are you a lead by example type of guy?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's an amazing honor to be named captain in any program. Bentley, there's a lot of astounding players before me, and I kind of follow in their footsteps. But in terms of my leadership role, I think that I am pretty vocal. When I see something wrong, I give my best sense as to how to correct it and kind of lead towards, I guess, a better solution. But I mean, there's no better way of leading than you doing the work yourself and leading by example. And I think that's what has put me in this position myself personally, just hard work and leading by example. And, people follow the leader. And if your leaders are leading by example, I think that's the best way to produce a successful team.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because you can like say all the things you want, but if you're not actually doing them yourself, then why will anyone follow you? So I think that's kind of a good way to do it.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of improvements, what's been kind of the biggest improvement you've made to your game so far this year as a senior?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest ones is a little bit of my confidence. Obviously it helps wearing the C, but and being a senior, but I think my conditioning and defensive reliability. I'm playing a lot more minutes, like heavier minutes. And obviously you have to be ready to go, after playing 20 minutes and, you're in the third period heading into OT, you always got to be ready. In terms of my defensive reliability, I think that since, I get put out there in critical situations in the D zone, I think that my shot blocking ability is up there. You just got to be hard. You just have to be reliable, and, you do little extra things here and there in the late minutes of the game that really make a difference between 3 points and 2 points and 1 point in the standings. So reliability is definitely one thing.
Yeah, and just talk about being a shot blocker, just because I don't know if I could personally just go in front of pucks and just eat them. I'm more of like a goal scorer and kind of grinder type of player, like third line. But for you, you can just go in front of those pucks and just eat them. How do you get the mindset to do that, where you don't even think about it, you just go for it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Honestly, I think it's kind of instinct at this point. You just see a puck and you don't want it to go in, so you block it. But yeah, I think I'm in the race for up there. I think Newhouse is in the lead right now in Northern Mich. Guy's an animal. But yeah, I mean, I respect guys, other guys that do it, and it's just kind of instinct at this point, and it shows guts, but I think it's more instinct, honestly. So.
Yeah, just because like when you normally see a puck coming towards you, your instinct is to kind of move away from it because you don't want to get hit. So I feel like you kind of have to readjust like your mindset on it, because you don't want to like also get hit by the puck, but you also have to, just because it helps, like you said, prevent a goal, and also helps like make it harder for the shooter to get the pucks onto the net as well. Just because the more pucks you get to the net, obviously more goals that will happen. So you want to prevent that.
Absolutely. That's it.
Now, as a senior, I guess, what are you working on regarding your games? Feel like when people don't really people talk about just the improvements they've made from their freshman to your senior year, but no one really talks about the improvements they try to make as a senior in the middle of the year, just because I think most people feel like you got it under control, even though that's usually not the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question too. I mean, one thing you can never do is get complacent. So I mean, in terms of working on, my flaws, I think just getting bigger, faster, stronger. I'm somewhat of an undersized defenseman. So, I mean, I always have to play, a little harder and to work a little harder to get back. So, I mean, just bigger, faster, stronger, always maintaining, healthy habits and working on, skating and, cardio and everything like that. So, I mean, I think just being an all around player that's gotten me to where I am now, I think just improving each one of those little aspects will make me a more complete player in the long run.
So I kind of want to transition and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and kind of work all the way up to where you are now with Bentley. So you're from Arizona. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey? Just because I feel like the hockey scene's growing out in Arizona, especially with the Sun Devils program. It seems like it's becoming more of a sport that kids want to play down there.
Absolutely, yeah, Matt. I mean, it's been great. Just the cultivation of young players down there has just been phenomenal. I mean, when I started, when I was pretty young, there wasn't too many players around. So, I mean, competition was pretty low. And so therefore I had to travel other places. But I mean, now you get younger teams winning, really big tournaments. Like my old coach, I played for the Arizona Bobcats, and my old coach, Ron Filion, his team went on to the Quebec tournament. It's one of the biggest youth Pee tournaments in the world. And they actually won it. So, I mean, it's really growing, which is just great to see. In terms of me growing up there, I loved it. I loved Arizona. I mean, I think I milked everything that I could out of it until I was 15. And then I headed out to Cushing Academy in Massachusetts, where I began my career out east. But I loved growing up in Arizona. My dad would always take me to the rink at Oceanside, which is where ASU plays now. So I've been playing out at Oceanside in the ice and down in Scottsdale since I was 3 years old. So it's been a part of me.
Yeah. What's Oceanside like? Just because I know they're building that new rink for ASU, but everyone calls it a character rink. Like it's not the most flashy one, but it's still one that is unique compared to the other ones in college hockey.
Yeah, it's character is a good word. It's not that nice, but I mean, it gets the job done. It's ice, there's bleachers. Pretty sure they have like a little student section now, like Sparky's Inferno down there for ASU. But yeah, I mean, it fit the bill. Like as a kid, you don't really think too much about it, and honestly, I think it's given me a little grit, growing up there, playing out of there. But I'm just glad they're getting a new rink. Let's just say that. I'm happy for Powers and Coach Hicks over there. So happy for the organization.
Now, have you played Arizona State before? I feel like they went to Holy Cross. I went to that game, but I think they went to Bentley the night after, if I'm not
They
mistaken.
did. They did. Yeah. They that was a fun one for us. That was fun because my dad came out here and was able to watch me play them. That was actually his alma mater. He played club hockey at ASU like way back in the day. So I think that was fun for him to come out and see me play them, kind of come full circle. But we ended up losing that game. They were pretty good that year. I think they finished like 9th in the country, so they were pretty solid. But we gave them a good run. I think it was like 3-0 or 2-0 or something like that. But it was a fun game.
Oh yeah, no, it was cool. I saw when they saw them on the schedule, I was like, I have to go see them because I feel like they don't come out east too often. I know they're in Boston right now, but no, that was a good game. I remember they scored in overtime against Holy Cross. That was a kind of an electric game to say the least. But
Yeah.
no, that's cool that. Now, I guess like, how did you start playing hockey, like specifically, since it wasn't as popular as it is now?
Definitely. I definitely have to give credit to my dad there. He did, I think I remember him taking me to he had season tickets at the Coyotes way back in the day when they first came. I must have been like 3 or 4, and I just remember going to those games, and I just loved it. Loved the atmosphere, and the contact, and it's just high speed. So my dad started taking me to the rink, and just fell in love with it ever since. So.
And who was your favorite player growing up? I assume it's got to be Doan, but I can't think of any other Coyotes players growing up, to be honest, from my perspective.
Yeah, Doan's great. He's been a great mentor. I skate with him, or I used to skate when I lived there in the summer. I used to skate with him and his kid Josh. Josh's a good kid, who's on ASU now actually. Doan was he was up there. He's one of my favorite players. I'd say my favorite player though overall was Chris Letang. He was just a treat to watch. Even now he's putting up points like no other, but he was just so dominant, when I was growing up, and it's pretty cool to see him puck moving D-man, and he had some style too, so that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and also won a few cups as well, so that doesn't hurt as well.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Now, before Bentley, you played for the Boston Junior Bruins. I guess my question is, how did you get the opportunity to go to that team? Because I know you went to Cushing after playing hockey in Arizona. So how did that opportunity lead to the Junior Bruins to help prepare you for college hockey?
Yeah, so I was looking to stay out here. I wanted to stay out east, just because some of the colleges that I've been talking to during my time at Cushing, they were on the East Coast. So I figured it would behoove me and my family to kind of stay out here. And I was looking into the USPHL as a junior league, as kind of a conduit into college hockey, and BJB was a great spot. And I think, Mike Anderson, who's the coach, reached out, and it was just a great fit, and the rest is history. So they were great. I really love them.
Now, who are some of the players you got to play with the Junior Bruins? And the reason why I asked this is just because Jack Quinville, who's one of my favorite players for Maine, he played for the Junior Bruins, but I also worked with a guy named Chris Miller, and he played for them as well. So I was wondering if you had the chance to play with those guys at all.
Yeah, I love Quinny. Jack's a good kid. He was a captain at Maine, wasn't he? Or is
Yes, he is currently now. He's in his grad
there now?
year.
Yeah, holy. Um, yeah, Jack's a great dude. Chris Miller, I think it's his brother Justin Miller.
I have no clue. He plays for UMass club hockey now.
Okay. I know Justin. I played with Justin. That might be his brother. Great kids. I played with Harrison Markel, who's my D partner. He's a captain over at Dartmouth right now. Goose Van Ass, he's a stud at Quinnipiac. Yaniv Peretz, stud goaltender at Quinnipiac now. Drew O'Connor, I forget him. He's on the Penguins now. We had Joey Cipollone at UNH. We had a ton of good guys. I think we had like 15 or 16 D1 commits that year, so we were pretty stacked. That was my second year there, and it was fun. It was a blast. It was fun playing for Mike Anderson and the Masters guys over there, and we had a fun team.
Yeah, no. One of the funniest Junior Bruins stories someone told me was he was playing in a line with Sean Farrell, who's currently with Harvard now, and he said like he had like 40 or 50 points, and he's like, he's like, oh my gosh, I might get some notice by NHL players, but then he's like, nope, they realized who was giving me all those points. It was definitely Sean Farrell. So I thought that was one of the funniest stories I've heard from that team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've heard Farrell's. Actually, I think we played Farrell. He's a good player. But yeah, BJB is fun.
Now, what's the best memory you have with the Junior Bruins? Just because you got to play with all those great guys who played D1, that must have been kind of you probably played well as a team, but you also probably made some good memories off the ice, I would assume.
For sure, yeah. We had a ton of fun. Like I said, I would say honestly, we weren't able, or I wasn't able to win anything with the Junior Bruins, but I'd say the best memory or experience, I'd say it was just honestly being around the boys. Like we had an apartment, so I think being young men, we were able to kind of grow and kind of find ourselves as a player and as a person more. Like I think I developed just as much living on my own, in an apartment with two other guys, Kevin O'Leary, who's at Trinity right now. He's a good dude, and we had a ton of fun, and just throughout the whole year, learned a lot and grew as a person. So.
Now, did you also play hockey at Cushing? And did you have to, like, I guess, like balance both playing hockey at Cushing and with the junior Bruins at any point in your career?
So I was at Cushing my junior and senior year of high school, and so I graduated Cushing in 2016, and I did play hockey for them under Rob Gagnon. And then, so after my senior year, after I graduated, I signed with the junior Bruins in the NCDC, or USPHL it was at that time. So I didn't have any conflict there, but it definitely was a balance when I was in prep school. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of school and being away from home. So I mean, that was a transition, but BJB, they made it pretty easy. It was pretty much just hockey all day long, and nothing too hard about that. So wasn't complaining there.
Yeah, no, that's kind of interesting for college hockey that, you have to go to juniors before you head off to college. Is that kind of weird, like going to high school and then kind of having that like 2-year break, just only focusing on hockey and then having to transition back to school once you get to college?
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely an adjustment. Obviously you talk to any kid that's made the jump. And I think that's the biggest, it doesn't hit you until you're sitting down in calculus your freshman year of college, and you're like, holy, like I forgot how to do math. But no, I mean, it's every school, they have programs and stuff that help you get back into it. And I love school. So I kind of stayed on top of everything during my 2 years. And juniors, I was taking classes whenever I could. And I think staying diligent with, keeping up with things in the news and, financial industries and everything, kind of helped me get right into Bentley pretty smoothly. So.
Yeah, and you're also really more mature than other freshmen when you get to college, just because obviously as a 20-year-old freshman, I feel like you'd probably take things more seriously than you would as an 18-year-old freshman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. You are more mature, and I think you're more goal driven, and you have a mindset that you're, expected to maintain. And I think that playing collegiate sports is just a phenomenal way to kind of keep yourself focused and diligent through the whole 4 years. So.
Now, thinking about back to your time with the junior Bruins, how did it help prepare you for college hockey, like on the ice wise?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the easiest way to put it is you're playing against, 16 to 20 Division I kids every single day in practice. And that's the best way you get better, is by playing against better talent and better kids. And throughout the league, it wasn't, there are 2 or 3 teams that, didn't really have a ton of D1 commits, but, and I think that's why they don't get as good of a rep as they should, because the NCDC is good. They produce a ton of D1 kids, and not just the, Atlantic schools, but I mean, we had BU, Quinnipiac, like those are good teams. Not saying that we aren't, obviously, but I think playing against better kids, and it really helps your game. Really helps your game.
Now, talk about your recruiting process to Bentley, and how did that go, and what made you want to go there versus other schools? Just because you were saying like the new rink wasn't there when you were getting recruited, so I guess like how did they convince you to go there and kind of convince you how the program is going to grow to where it is today, I guess?
Yeah. So when I was being recruited, the rink wasn't there, but when I was going to go in, it was going to be there. So the rink was a big, I guess, plant in the recruiting process, which was great. It's very enticing. And I think the other biggest thing is just academics in itself. I mean, there's life after hockey, and I think that I'm very interested in, business and finance and, all the whole 9 yards with that. So, I mean, I did my due diligence on universities that focused in business and had good economics programs and finance programs. And Bentley came to the top of my list, and, I told my coach I was interested in them, and Mike Anderson, he did phenomenal things for me. He helped me out a ton, and just kind of happened like that, and started talking. They started coming out to games because they're only 30 minutes away. So the location definitely helped in my recruiting process a lot, but couldn't be happier that I ended up here.
And you're close to Boston as well, so for like the outside of the classroom perspective, that must have been another selling point.
Absolutely, yeah. Being close to the city is just awesome. I love Boston. I want to live out here when I'm done. I want to work out here. It's a great spot, and happy to call it home, honestly.
Now, I guess what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game? Was it kind of the physicality of the game? Like making quicker decisions? Like which part of the game did you feel like you had to adjust to the most once you stepped foot on Bentley?
For sure. I think the speed is just the biggest thing you notice. At first, I still remember my first like scrimmage skate when, all the freshmen hopped on with the team. You know, it's an adjustment for sure, speed, size and everything. But I think some of the biggest things that you have to adjust to is just, your work ethic. Guys work hard here, like they work really hard on all teams. And, you either rise to the occasion, you work just as hard as them, or you work harder, and that's the kind of decision that you have to make, and you learn it fast or you don't. So
Now, talking about the growth of the program, I think one step in the right direction, at least when you've been with Bentley so far, is you won your first Atlantic Hockey Playoff Series your sophomore year. Just talk about what it was like winning that playoff series and just how important it was for yourself and for the program's growth as well. And it's pretty disappointing because you didn't get to continue the tournament that year because of COVID.
yeah, that was great. I mean, I still remember that series, the Air Force series. It was just a big building block, and you get to that point in the season where, every game matters, every shift matters. And being able to, I think we swept them. And I think being able to just solidify ourselves, as a contender in the conference, it shocked some other big name teams like AIC. And even though we weren't able to compete against them as we were playing them in the next round, as it was canceled due to COVID, obviously, we were ready. It's all about how you're playing in the second half. And it's kind of comforting now and to the kids that are here now that we can beat and win against teams in the playoffs. So I think it was just a precursor as to what to come this year.
Now, obviously, last year there was a lot of challenges because of the pandemic, with not playing in front of any fans, and also just with the inconsistent schedule. So, I guess my question is, how did you handle the challenges of playing in a pandemic? And I guess like what kind of happened, I guess, from your sophomore year to your junior year, just because it felt like you guys made a huge jump your sophomore year, and then it seemed like because of COVID, it might have affected how your junior season went.
Yeah, it was a heartbreaking year, honestly, last year. And it wasn't just for me. Obviously, everybody was battling it. But for me personally, I think the biggest challenge was just keeping a positive mindset. You just, you start to see, some kids that, don't handle it as well as others, and, being in and out of quarantine, it's really grueling on the head. Staying positive is such a tough thing to do when you're back in quarantine for 20 days. Like I think our team spent a total of 30 days at least for each player in quarantine, which is just ridiculous. Like you look back at that now and you think insanity. And I'll be honest, the fact that I'm in here for 10 days right now is ludicrous. I have
Mm-hmm.
no symptoms. It's insane. But on the flip side, staying positive, I mean, it's a really big attribute that's just a necessity at this point. If you're not positive, you're not going to be able to leave an impact on your team. And, you just got to stay positive the whole time. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's what I'm doing here as a leader at Bentley, and, keeping the boys on the same page and, keep focused on our goal. You might be out with COVID like I am, but it's the next man up, and you just got to stay ready. Got to stay positive.
Yeah, no, and it must be hard, like you said, on mentally, because humans aren't supposed to stay inside one spot for a month, basically. Like it's hard to do that. Like you need to go outside at least just to get fresh air. So that's just like mentally, like just like when you think about it health wise, it's also not good as well to deal with.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Now, I guess how did you kind of like use last year heading into this year as motivation, I guess, to improve, because it seems like it's been working so far just watching your team play.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would probably answer that the same way I answered an earlier question was you never know when you're going to get canceled. So I think that obviously guys know that. And I think guys have fully bought into the, 110% mindset. And I think it's really pushed some of our, I guess, younger players, and, it's matured them a lot faster. which is great. Our freshmen and our transfers, that have come in. We have 10 new guys, 5 freshmen, 5 transfers. So I think everybody that's come in that's new has really jumped on board fast, and we're all rowing the same way at high speed, which is just great. So.
And kind of how do you help the freshmen transition into Bentley as a captain, but also as a senior as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just checking in on them. Make sure things are going smoothly. School is, like we were talking about earlier. School is really tough to jump in. Bentley's a tough school. Bentley's a really tough school. Freshman year especially is probably the hardest year. And you just got to make sure everything's okay. And I try and hang out with them as much as I can. And you don't get the senior freshman connection like as much as you think, but I'm really close with the freshmen, and I think our whole team is close. Like even our other seniors are pretty close with the freshmen. So I think just providing a sense of support to them, and always being there is a good thing.
Now, what are your goals, I guess, for the rest of the season?
That's a good question. Well, the first goal is to hang a banner. Personally, I'd say getting up there, probably top 5 in shot blocks. I don't know what I am right now. I think I'm up there, but I think that's a personal accolade that I think would be willing to pursue. I don't know if I'm going to win it. Like I said, Newhouse is up there, but I think shot blocking is a fun goal to have kind of on the side, but just get bigger, faster, stronger, like might be my last year playing, and go out on a bang. So hopefully we'll win it.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of a cool thing to tell people after you leave Bentley. It's like, hey, I was top 5 in shot blocks my senior year of college. That's kind of a cool thing, cool icebreaker.
For sure.
Now, one player you got to play with throughout your 3 years with Bentley is Yakov Novak. He was one of my favorite players to watch with your team in the past few years. He's obviously now with Northeastern, but I want to ask you, what was it like being his teammate, just because the guy has probably the best shot in Atlantic hockey, and honestly in Hockey East right now too, but I also like his physical play. Like, he gives it to people. Like, he's just a fun guy to watch.
Yeah, he's a fun guy to be around, as well as on the ice. I mean, he's a great teammate. He's one of my best friends. Always consider him close to me, and we've been through a lot. I mean, he was my roommate for 2 years, and we were close our freshman year too. So I mean, he's been an impact on my life here, even though he's not here now. Besides just his hockey, he's a great kid off the ice. I have nothing bad to say about him. On ice, obviously, we would always get into it. He's a physical, chippy player, and doesn't take anything from anyone. And I kind of play the same way. So, I mean, we would always get into it on the ice. But, at the end of the day, it's, we're brothers, and miss the kid too. I see him every now and then around. So I like to give it to him here and there. But, yeah, he's doing well.
Was it cool doing that handshake line, playing Northeastern for the first game? That must have been weird for him more than you.
Yeah, it would have been a little better if we won,
Mm-hmm.
but no, it was good to see. It was obviously good to see him. Give him the shake. All the boys were hugging him, and boys loved him. So he left a good impact.
Oh yeah. So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions just to get to know you a little bit more off the ice. My first question to you is, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Lunch. Okay. I'll go. I'll go with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson. I obviously a Fox contributor, Fox News contributor. I'm very into politics, and I think Tucker's a very interesting character. The way he portrays himself, basically his whole story as to how he got into where he is now. I think he's just an interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to have lunch with him, sit down, talk about everything that's going on now. So
I think one thing that'll be interesting to hear from him is like how he handles being like a controversial figure. Because I don't know like how I would handle that.
For sure. Absolutely. I completely agree.
Now, next question is, speaking of, I guess, lunch, but if you could choose one teammate to cook a meal for you, who would you pick?
Cook a meal. I would say Mikey Zafonte. We were actually just talking about some sort of steak dinner that he makes. So if he's listening to this, cook it up for me, Mike.
Yeah, I would love to see that if he does it. So I will put my 2 cents on that as well.
Yeah.
Now, who's the funniest teammate you have with Bentley?
Funniest? Oh, hands down, Brennan Walker, my roommate. Hands down. He's the funniest kid I've ever met in my life. He's hysterical. Just like pure humor, like just the funniest wit, dry. Like he's hysterical. Definitely try and get him on.
Oh yeah. Does he
Yeah.
have the best chirps on the team, or is it someone
Yeah.
else?
He's up there. He's got some crazy ones. I'd say Bavaro likes to chirp a little bit. He's a sophomore, and we like to give it to him because he chirps a lot. But he's pretty funny. He's pretty funny.
What's the best chirp that you've ever received? I'm curious. One you can say on the pod.
Explicit version probably shouldn't say it on here, but no, they chirp like I said, I'm a little undersized, and
Yeah.
you know, for like small jokes. I mean, I don't know. It's nothing too bad. Nothing I can't handle.
Now, speaking of, I guess, funniest teammates, but who's the quietest teammate at Bentley?
Quietest. This year on our team, it was Evan DeBrouwer, our goalie. Could not figure Evan out for a while, and like probably until like a month or two ago, he just came out of his shell, and he's hilarious now.
Mm-hmm.
He's great, and I think he's finally finding his groove too. So I think that kind of coincides a little bit probably, but he was pretty quiet in the beginning. I got to say that, but now he's can't shut him up.
Oh yeah. I feel like goalies are usually the most quietest players on the team.
Yeah, I've definitely dealt with my fair share of quiet tenders.
Hey, if they get the job done, then it doesn't really bother me at all. So
Exactly.
now, who has the best style on the team besides yourself?
Yeah, not naturally me, but God, I hate to say this, but maybe Dylan Patera. I hate that, but he's got some good style. Um, Bavaro's got some good suit style. He comes in with like the Peaky Blinder hat sometimes. Hopefully he doesn't hear that. I don't want to pump his tires too much, but uh, yeah, I hate saying it, but maybe Dylan.
Yeah, I feel like Cole Kodzi has good style because I was scrolling through the gram, and I don't know if you saw that recent pic, but that was some good style that he had in that.
Kadzi's got some good style. Yeah, he's a good kid too. I love Kadzi.
Now, what music do you like to listen to on a general basis?
I'd say day to day, I'm more like I'd say I listen to rap a lot. Not like hardcore rap, but like mainstream stuff. I do love country though. Like Thomas Rhett, Luke Bryan. I love those guys too. So I mean, I kind of listen to everything honestly.
Now, back to, I guess, one more non-hockey question, but what's your guilty pleasure song if you have one?
Guilty pleasure. I'm a big fan of Rihanna. Maybe like Disturbia. I don't know. She's got some good tunes. Big Rihanna fan.
Nice. I like the song she had with Drake a few years ago. That was a banger.
Yeah, she throws some good ones out there. Everyone loves her.
Now, back to some hockey questions now. First one is, should fighting be allowed in college hockey?
That's a good question. I would say yes. And the reason I say yes is because I think that, kids are already fighting in junior leagues. I think that, obviously not everyone's going to the national or, even the A or even the coast, but I think in terms of development and I think of preparation for the next level, I think that even though it would look, I guess, bad for some schools and some of their players walking around with black eyes and, cuts on their face. I mean, it happens anyways. So, I mean, I think that allowing players to fight and express, emotion, and not only that, but to be able to stick up for a teammate in a way that's legal, I think it would propel college hockey. And I think that it would just be an overall positive, actually, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I think players should be able to police themselves on the ice because I feel like you shouldn't have one guy kind of run around the team and not kind of have to deal with it. Because if you do it in the NHL, you're obviously gonna have to fight for it. And I feel like in college hockey, you can kind of get away with that. So that's why I feel like fighting should be allowed, just because it kind of limits those. Like if someone has like a dirty check, you can kind of fight it out and then like move on and play the rest of the game. And then fans would probably
Absolutely.
love it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say, I'm not too much of a fighter myself, but I mean, I do get emotional, as does everybody. And I think that, actions have consequences, like you said. And I mean, it's just part of the game.
Mhm.
You fight in juniors and, those kids are 16, 20 years old. Like college hockey is a little different. So, I mean, I think it should be allowed, but that's
Mhm.
just my 2 cents.
I feel like the Atlantic would be the most fighting conference, either that or the CCHA. I feel like one of those two. There will be a lot
I,
of brawls.
I would agree. I would agree with that. So hopefully we'll see.
Yeah. And then what advice would you give a younger player who's trying to pursue D1 college hockey scholarship? That'll, I guess, be my last question for you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, every time I get asked this question, a ton of things come to my head, but I think the biggest thing is just ambition. It's all about hard work, and it's so cliche to say, but I mean, if you outwork, the kid that you're competing with, it's going to pay dividends at every single level. And, even for me, like growing up, I was always overlooked because I was undersized and, coming from like Arizona and, a ton of factors were outweighing my performance and success. But at the end of the day, you just got to put your head down and work hard and outperform the kid next to you. And, always keep that chip on your shoulder because there's always somebody that's better than you. Always. So I think it's just pure ambition and you'll get to where you want to go.
Now, I know you mentioned some people throughout the interview, but do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your teammates, family members, friends, former teammates?
Uh, all the boys know I love them, but shout out to the family, obviously.
Mhm.
Family's family, and wouldn't be here without them. So big shout out to them.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod, Ethan. It means a lot to myself, and I wish you nothing but the best for the rest of your senior year. I know you're going to do great. Hopefully, I get the chance to see you play in person sometime soon. But until then, take care and stay safe and enjoy the rest of quarantine, I guess.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
No problem. Now, one question I like to ask everyone